for the English speaking. I want to thank you, Tuala, for giving us this a special time with us. This is a special interview because I have been trying to track this man down. Really have been trying to track him down. But I am so happy that we have Tuala with us today. Successful entrepreneur. He's a chair of ASA Foundation, an advocate for mental health as well for a long time, a Pacific leader as well. But I'm going to give him this time to go ahead and introduce himself. I know our time is very limited, but I'm giving you this time, Tuala, to go ahead and, because not a lot of people, they probably haven't heard of you, but I would love for you to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, I for Manuia, Luana, I prefer Manu with Paio, the Tato live and in the Yaso. Yeah. My name, Tuala, I'm from Leova'a. I'm sure there'll be a lot of stuff. Actually, I'm from many villages, but okay, Loy, when we do our back and forth questions, then I can share what might be relevant or just anything. So basically, I run a few businesses in New Zealand, and I'm also chairman of a group called ASA Foundation. Just to cut a long story short, where COVID fits into a lot of what I do now goes back to 2019. The 2019, we rallied and took close to $1 million of aid to help Samoa during the measles, the misela. Yeah, na taimi e over the valus furu lima lean that we lost to the measles. And na taimi e tele pusa maliu se tulo sta maletsu waiso swani na ave le macho ngadrenga le ASA Foundation. So that's just one of the hats that I wear. So we try and mix business with our community. Yo tansa lofa yon tangata if I pay for le long community. Yeah. And it's just so that's a little bit of a bio about me, and the reason, and a lot of people, maybe I'll share this now. A lot of people say, well, why do you even care? And when I'm 44 years old now, but when I was 19 years old, I ran into a car to try and commit suicide. I'd gotten a girl pregnant. I was 19, no education, expelled from all sorts of schools, no job, nothing, no career, no nothing, but just not Jamie to me, and so that's my story, and I'm sure I'll share more. But so the reason why I give and do all of this is because I'm thankful for my second chance. I'm just living in a real grateful. I'm just grateful for just being alive. So I guess my parents working 3 jobs, doing all these things, and me being the eldest of my family, and I just wasted it. I wasted the sweat when I was young, and now I'm just grateful for Wamolo Taula Toitau Tualma ko ainga. If I pay for no, if I pay for the Kalesia, she can tell Pupuna.
Malo, lava Tuala, I really, I love your honesty. Like I told you before we even go live, this is the first time I receive a brief bio of someone who is so honest. School dropout, suicidal survivor. I mean, and all that kind of obstacles that would stop you from achieving your goals. And I really, really want to thank you, because a lot of people will hide that. A lot of people will go and hide that. But Tuala, I'm going to ask you, this is, since you took us there, I just wanted to start with a very important question right now, because you took me there. Do you believe that God saved you for a purpose? Do you believe now you are now you're living according to the purpose that God made you for? is to give
You
hope,
know,
is to be an
yeah,
entrepreneur, to be successful.
yeah. It's a question I struggle with. I think about it myself. Ole mahaya fo i lenei avanoa. Are you there? Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, perfect.
Okay, I'm just at one of those stages where I can't hear you, so I'm just gonna
Mm.
pop out and I'll come back in.
I can hear you, Tuala. Okay, he'll be back. But like I mentioned before, people like Tuala, he's an entrepreneur o se tangata pa business. E au ngā whatata noa ngā whapene tau te o mai e fo. We can learn something, or one or two from entrepreneurs. Pe a fia fai sau business, e mai se foi lato o fesili bea po le hale te gift na au mai ia tatama. Okay, go ahead, Tuala. We can hear you perfectly well.
Yeah, sorry guys. It's just really windy here in New Zealand at the moment. And so sometimes it. Yeah, look, I was just sharing that. It's just a question I struggle with. And I never, I never ever shared this. I don't think ever, and I'll share it with you now. I remember just before I hit the vehicle front on, I asked God for a second chance. And I know there's probably a lot of us who've attempted before, who've done that, but never got a chance to come back. And for whatever reason, on the time to fear this is just from myself. I remember, I can't remember anything waking up in hospital on that, but what I do have a memory of going into a tunnel and a person and a shadow there, long hair man, telling me to go back.
Wow.
So yeah.
Oh,
So
I got goosebumps.
I've never shared this before. I just when you ask the
I made
question,
you. It has to
and
come out.
but I never do this work or do this, and I don't talk about Jesus or our Christian faith a lot. I just do, if that makes sense. I just because I feel like I'm just serving. Yeah. So anyway, so that's probably as closest as I've come. Yeah.
Tuala, like I said, I got goosebumps, and I'm honored. I am really honored to hear that. So to know there's hope, there's Jesus, there's the Word of God that we can always rely on if we are going through any challenges of life, because we are going to go through a lot of challenges of life, and then the Word of God, and then Jesus, and people like you with your testimony. I mean, there's hope. There is hope out there. And one of the reasons why I was asking these questions, because there's still so many people who out there who are still questioning who they are. They don't even know what gift they were born with. They were still searching. But what I believe, Tuala, what I believe, you were created with a gift in you. Our Heavenly Father was creating you with a gift in you. All you have to do is just find that out. So that's one of the main reasons why I was asking this question to Wala. Are you living in your purpose now? Your purpose of giving out, your purpose of achieving all your goals, your purpose of being a successful entrepreneur. Because you're the kind of person who don't want to ask for help, but love to give help. Don't you think?
Yeah. Look. Yeah. I never thought I never thought myself as a successful person in any way. I just don't. I never thought that. But in saying that, I do feel like I'm living like my goals. If that makes sense, like I'm living a life I didn't even imagine. If that makes sense, I get to coming from Samoa. To give you an example, like I grew up in a village where I remember me and my brother and my sister going every morning and getting water from the village next door. It took us 40 minutes. Me and my sister. And I remember, growing up in our household where we didn't have we had no power at our household, like, and we had to watch other kids, other families. Every day in the afternoon or the evening, as you know. And then we used to watch other families, see what they're doing, because our house had no lights on, so you can't see us, but we can see all the other houses. The thing is, I never saw us as being poor, and I never saw us as struggling, if that makes sense. Like, even though we didn't have a lot, I never felt that we didn't have much in Samoa. But then when I got to New Zealand, I really wasted my opportunities here. You know what? Then you know, pe wang alo ya te au ia le anga leima le anga lofa. You know, at that time, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yes.
I'm going to have to log out again and come back in again. Sorry.
That we can hear you, Tuala. We can hear you perfectly well. It might have to be this way through the interview o ka connection mai New Zealand. But if you have any questions, like I mentioned, Tuala is one, these are the kind of people that you really want to have in your circle. If you want to become successful, if you want to, if you want to learn from, from people like him and to become some successful, like I mentioned before, you got to learn from people like Tuala. Go ahead, Tuala.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Can you ask the question again?
That's fine. No, I was just talking. Interviews like this, this is one of the reason why I did this platform is to to help give out my time and advertise businesses as well for free, and and insight and people like you. So I we can learn a lot from Tuala as well, people like Tuala. So but go ahead, Tuala.
Yeah,
it's all about you today.
I think one of the things that I'm grateful for, like I said to you, that I got a second chance to try and do and raise my family flag, if that makes sense. That I trampled on, and one of the things now with me is I failed. Okay, I joke about this. I feel like I failed in every department in life. That I'll be a really good teacher for a failure class, where if there was a class on how to fail and all of that, I would be the teacher. I would be a professor for it. And right now in life, like, I'm 44 and I've just made a decision that with my team and my family, I said, you know what we have now, I think this will love for, and I think you probably see that as one of my big dreams now, that will look at Samoa, is this movement I've built around Tupakaku. And it's a project called Tupakaku. And what's happening is, with Samoa, I mean, before the COVID, I was in Samoa. I spent 2 weeks in Samoa and 2 weeks in New Zealand. And that's how I went. I've gone back. I've had a chance to have an education and lived the experience away from Samoa, but they haven't. So I've gone back. Whatever I took back, I can tell you now, we built a business there. We opened a bakery about 3 months ago. Taxis, we've got a volleyball team, a rugby team, a boxing team, because of my experiencing. And then in New Zealand, our business here is we bring stuff from Samoa and we sell it our shop here and we send the money there. So we send the money back. So and I feel like that's my work. I feel like, through business, in terms of Sinata Maiwa Moa, Fatashe Maisi, that share the same vision about helping yourself. So I guess that's where I'm at.
Tuala, what is the ASA Foundation? I know you mentioned something about it before. Is that a collaboration of businesses from the South Pacific? Are we only talking about Samoa or the whole Pacific itself?
No. So ASA Foundation works with the vulnerable families in the part of Auckland that economically isn't doing so well.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is basically you've got those who are in need on the left, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and those who have resources on the right. Then what we do is we go bring stuff from the right and give to the left.
How long have you been doing that, Tuala?
Well, ASA Foundation is pretty new, but I've been serving for about 22, 23 years.
I've
But
heard, Tuala,
we've given it a name. We've given it a name, what we've been doing all along.
I've heard, Tuala, because I did my assignments and come to find out this is nothing new to you. You have been, a strong leader to the Pacific Islanders. You have been volunteering, a long time and giving out,
Yeah,
helping, giving back in New Zealand, not just in New Zealand, but Samoa and overseas as well.
yeah. We've done a lot of work throughout the islands. If there's a cyclone in Tonga or Fiji, the Cook Islands, wherever, we've just given, a lot. And like I said to you, if we can help, we can. And I guess one of the strengths that I have or my team has is we just knock on doors. Whatever they need here, we go and ask. I'll give you an example. We had a vaccination drive last weekend. I'm trying to figure out what dates we're in. And of course, my business partner and myself, we always donate money and things like that. But we had a group in Kia, the Sikh Church. I went there, the Supreme Sikh Society of New Zealand, and they gave us over $10,000 worth of food and to give out as an incentive if you're strong in vaccination. So apart from others who donate as well. So what I'm saying is we've become a voice where people trust us to do what we say we're going to do, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And you know what? I've heard, I also found out that you don't just give to just communities and the Pacific Islands, you also give to churches as well. Usually the churches are the ones who give out, but you also give to churches. Can you walk me through that?
Yeah, look, I remember landing back in New Zealand after the Misela. And I think a week after we landed, we'd been there most of 2019, and we landed back in early 2020. And a week later, we went into lockdown in New Zealand. And because we've been there, we saw what happened in Samoa. New Zealand was still not at the stage of where we were at because of what we saw.
Mm-hmm.
And we mobilized straight away. And through our partners, we gave out over 100,000 masks on that week straight away, and sanitizers and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so look, it's part of our service. And I also work with a lot of whaiwhiao, and so it's just a way for us to serve, if that makes sense.
Yes, definitely. Using your voice, as you mentioned before. I know this is a different subject right now with the COVID. Everybody knows Tuala about, his the way that you were being treated, that you have been treated throughout that experience. Do you believe that what you went through with you and your partner? Do you believe this is going to be an example for our Pacific Islanders to voice themselves?
Yeah, well, the thing is that what happened to us wasn't new. It happened to a lot of people, but I think what was different is that we voiced it.
Correct.
And just to give you a context, when we needed help at that time at MIQ, they didn't allow us to ring the ambulance. That's where my disappointment, that's where my anger came, because it was a really simple allow the ambulance to take us. And I'll give you the context of it. The delay in there and them allowing the hospital and them to help us meant my partner was 42.7 degree her temperature,
Mm-hmm.
and they had to pump so much IV into her when they got to her, and had she reached 45, it's what they call the death temperature. So we had a high risk of losing her, and then so I can tell you that after I spoke out and I'm a pretty straight person. You probably would have noticed that by now with my videos and
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What happened was when I called out these officials and the way we've been treated, a lot of resource went into the community. Actually, on the next day, millions of dollars was pumped into the MIQs, the hospitals, and taking care of our people. And that's because Okako, Kakiola Maya Malanganga Finale, Onosai, File Mu, the obedient stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But we are not in Samoa. Wherever we are not in our homeland. Wherever you are in the world, you gotta speak out and you gotta say because if we don't, we become a statistic. And I can tell you now, things are changing here.
Tuala, as I mentioned, that this might be the beginning of us. You might be a tunnel for the voices of our Pacific Islanders, because there's so many who are quiet, who are being silenced. And
Yeah,
like you mentioned, you are the starting point of to voice our opinions. I mean, look at it, you're taxpayers.
yeah,
I now
yeah.
I'm going there.
If I let Tala on this, because I had people come to me at that time and said, Tuala, why didn't you tell him like that you own businesses and do this and that? And I can tell you, I'll give you an example of this kind of talk. When I was in Samoa as well, I waited 5 days in La, no shelter, not with my team, waiting for a whole week, waiting for our container to be cleared. At that time when we took this aid to Samoa, and my father is a government official in Samoa, and I'll tell you how these two link. The people in Samoa said to me, "Why didn't you say that your father's a government minister?
Mm.
Otherwise, if he had said that, they would have given you the containers just like that." And the people here
Oh.
said to me, "Kuala, why didn't you say you're a business owner? They could have helped you straight away." Here's my answer to both cases. Connections, resources. What
Absolutely.
is the point when the way you treat people based on their economic standing and their contacts and their connections and network? What are we? What kind of society is that? We should be treated the same. The person who has nothing and the person who has everything should be treated the same. And that's how I treat everybody. We shouldn't be treated any less than that. Otherwise, and that's my challenge to everybody. Whether they have a dollar, whether they have zero, or whether we should all be like that. That's just how I see it.
Mga ia fautuanga tuala mga ia ko ai ngā leo ia e mana mia la but time especially this time mele ia ngele la langi tato nei. I mean, voices like this, it needs to be heard. It really, really needs to be heard. Tuala, one of the painful things that I found out when I listened to your interview and listened to what you said on on the media is it the color of your skin as well? What do you think? What is your input into that?
Yeah, look, I'm sure in every country now, I'm somebody who's always treated people based on their character and things like that. Never looked at the color of their skin. But we do have a problem. In New Zealand, we do have a problem, and it's been there for a long time. But in saying that, if we don't voice these concerns, then we're not going to make any difference.
So while I can still hear you, go ahead.
Yeah. No. That was my comment.
Correct, correct. Tuala. So what do you think? What do you propose? What is your advice to the since you mentioned about your experience in Samoa as well, what is your advice to the government officials, to those leaders who are up there about the experience, the experience that you went through, and I'm pretty sure it's still happening nowadays.
Yeah, look, I like I've always said to people, I don't have an advice. I never want to advise anybody, but I just want to share my experience. My experience was that the way these guys treated us was because they thought that that's how they treat everybody unless you're different, unless you're connected, or unless you have a lot of money, or how they see you, and that's not a good experience for me as a Samoan. And then that shouldn't be the kind of experience that we give our people. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Tuala, for that. Tuala, I know there's what is the Pacifica Friday market before we get off?
Yes, so the Pacifica Friday market that we have been heavily involved in was actually a lot of the people. You'll probably see me driving a lot of this Samoa at the moment, which is similar to the Pacifica Friday market. A lot of these people, they lost work or they lost businesses, or a lot of that during the COVID from last year. And so what we did was we created this marketplace where these people could come and sell their goods and make money for their families. So for us, but it's at home. So what we try and do is bring it out, but provide a space and a place for them to make money, but also to reconnect with their community, especially utilizing people like myself who've been through and who have some contacts that can come back and help.
Amazing, Tuala. What before we get up, Tuala, what do you have for the young entrepreneurs out there and those who wants to become entrepreneurs out there, especially from the South Pacific? What do you have for them?
Yeah, for me, there's one thing that I see that's really key, and I also see it's missing from a lot of our people who, when they start off in business, they want to get paid straight away and they want to do all of this stuff. And that is, you've got to serve first. I got to tell you this right now. Find the oldest person in that industry. Find the person who's been doing that the longest. Get aside that person, because they've done it. They've succeeded in it, and learn from them. And that's how what I did was I went and mixed with people that were good at what they do, and I just listened. And I never got paid $1, to be honest. But I'm thankful that I listened and I followed these guys, because now I know what it feels like. You can see I'm still in my van. We've got staff, we've got people that could do that, but I drive it myself. I still do. I still deliver myself. I still promote it myself. I don't have to do it, but I do it because I'm grateful for my where I'm at in life. But I'm reminded from what these guys and these men and women have taught me. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you so much, Tuala, for your time. Our time is very limited, and again, I would love to have you, Tuala, back. Thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who joined us today. Thank you so much for what you do for our community and our Pacific Islanders and for the world as well. Yeah, looking forward to have you back again if I can get a hold of you again. Manuia lava le aso manuia le faingo ne vai aso ya malava ya fa so fu in the loa.
Yeah, faze fu of tight.